You're listening to Somewhat Frank with me, Frank Gruber. After working in the corporate world for a decade, I decided to blaze my own path by co-founding Tech Cocktail, which helped catalyze local startup communities and eventually turned into TechCo Media, a site which grew to millions of readers and was eventually acquired. Over the past decade, I've interviewed hundreds of entrepreneurs and thought leaders from some of the fastest growing and most successful companies in history. And along the way, I've learned amazing lessons from my experiences. So we're going to talk about startups, tech, innovation, and their intersection with personal life, and anything else on Frank Gruber's mind. So let's get started being Somewhat Frank. Somewhat Frank is produced with the help of Established, my new company.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Somewhat Frank podcast. I'm your host, Frank Gruber. Today, I'm joined by my colleague, longtime friend, and fellow treasure hunter, Johnny Good Times Guidos. Johnny, how you doing?
Hi, Frank. I'm doing excellent. Getting geared up and ready for the holidays, and I'm excited. Hopefully, we get some snow here in Indianapolis. There's nothing better than a white Christmas or a white holiday for.
Yeah, it's right around the corner. I can't believe it. It's been the longest, slowest year possible. If you think back, I feel like some things go really fast, and other things are just like, wow, that felt like 10 years ago. I don't know.
Oh my, for sure. No, 100%.
But we are at the end of the year, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, I think, especially with the pandemic. We've had, it's a crazy year for the global pandemic with COVID and everything, and we had over 300,000 people have lost their lives in the United States alone, and I'm assuming that number is going to hit 400,000 plus, which is actually a milestone. World War II was the last time we lost that kind of. Had those kinds of casualties for something. So pretty crazy year, and obviously very sad. But there's vaccines. There's actually multiple vaccines that are out there. Pfizer being the one that's, I think, making the biggest push right now. And it's been approved. It's being rolled out. People are literally getting shots. I don't know if you saw on the news yesterday, Johnny. People are getting shots in, most of the medical workers and things are getting shots. That's pretty big news.
I know. Hopefully, it definitely tapers that spike that we've seen recently. And I know I'm signed up. I'm going to get one as soon as possible. How about you? Are you going to get one?
Yeah, I don't know how did you get signed up? Is there a place? Am I supposed to?
No, I don't know. There's a rollout.
How do you get on the list?
But I have a personal doctor that took care of that for me.
Gotcha. So. That's awesome. Yeah. So I am not on the list. I hope that it's similar to Santa's list. If you're good, you get the thing. And if you're not, that kind of thing. I don't know. Actually, everyone should get this. It shouldn't be a good or bad. Everyone should get this if they can. And yeah, obviously there's still questions around it too, though. Obviously, this was a medical breakthrough. Pfizer pushed this through pretty quickly, got approved pretty quickly. It's using new kinds of technology to be approved, or to basically attack, basically the virus and whatnot, and actually get the antibodies in your system. So it's pretty interesting. Pretty interesting stuff. I just don't, hopefully, fingers crossed, everything is going to play out like it's supposed to, and we're not going to grow another antler or something. It's not going to happen, but you know what I mean? It's not going to make us turn into unicorns or something. Or that'd be cool, but not the intent.
I'm sure it'll hopefully. Well, I'm not sure anymore. Everything's been weird this year, but it'll be
absolutely. Right. Yeah, totally. Everything's been weird, but light at the end of the tunnel. So we're keeping the faith. We're taking it one day at a time, and we'll be marching forward here with that. And it's just been a wild month already. Even we're really a little bit into December here, and November kind of went out with a crazy bang, and here we are. And especially in the tech world, I don't know if you've been following these IPOs, the DoorDash and Airbnb recently, and these are companies that have been around for 10 years, but finally they're taking private and going public here. And Airbnb alone, they were priced at $68 and they doubled. So, turned the company from, $37 billion company to, or I can't maybe getting this wrong, but basically they're almost a $100 billion company, I think, by the end of the day, the first day or something, and it doubled overnight, I guess. So long story short, some investors made a lot of money, and so did some of those founders and early employees. So good for them. I'm glad that they were able to do that and take some money out of the table, but pretty wild. People are wondering if it's another bubble.
Yeah, it's just if you look back at the trends, right, whenever there's a big IPO, generally there's that spike and then a significant drop off shortly thereafter. So it's just kind of playing the market volatility. I don't know if it has specifically has anything to do with the value, the substantive valuation of the company itself.
Right, definitely. I mean, Airbnb, for example, they were not the only one doing what they were doing. I mean, the idea, with the company was, there was a tech conference in San Francisco, and this is the origin story that's told out there, that the founders decided to start, renting out some air mattresses in their place, and that turned into, what is now Airbnb. And, we've all used, Airbnb, but before that, there was, HomeAway, and there was couch surfing, and, all these other sites that are very similar. And, obviously didn't quite go off the same way. HomeAway's pretty big though. Yeah, so
no, they had a really nice marketing approach, but I've used all of them and have pretty good experiences with all of them as well. So
right. So I guess the idea here is that there's new ways to spin things, right? And I think with this one, they did a really great job with building a community and their approach and their kind of shiny new thing that was basically something that had kind of similar things out there, right? And so, but they were able to kind of capitalize on it by getting the right people behind them, building the right team, did a lot to do it. I'm not saying like, oh, they had an idea and there's a lot of other ideas. I'm saying that they worked really hard to get where they were. But it should be motivation for anybody that has an idea out there that's like, hey, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it better and I'm going to do it in a little bit different way. That could be a huge opportunity, right? There's still plenty of room out there in the world. To create a better experience.
Yeah, I've always said that you don't need to recreate the wheel, right? That's the old saying. But if you can show additional efficiency, or you can take an existing technology out there, and like I said, if you just do one thing differently, and you can extrapolate that efficiency over a larger sample set and show that you solve for scale, that's $100 billion business, Frank. So let's do it.
Right, I know. It's wild. It goes that quickly, right? All of a sudden you take this thing, you made it a little bit better, and now it's worth $1 billion. I mean, it's phenomenal. So a lot of opportunity out there for anybody that's got ideas, wants to start executing. I think that's the biggest part, right? So cool stuff going on. And then, I don't know if you're seeing this out there in Indianapolis, but I've been just watching the, Twitter and all these other places. Like, there's this whole buzz right now about where people are migrating to. So big names like Elon Musk and, founder of Dropbox, through Houston and a bunch of folks, right, are moving out of Silicon Valley, right?
Right.
And not that Silicon Valley is the only place you can live, right? Because I'm sitting in Maine and you're in Indianapolis. There's lots of places you can live. We've known that for a while, but some of these bigger, noteworthy, companies like Oracle and others have said where they're making their headquarters down in Austin, Texas, and with that same, and so it's all the timing, right? Like, we've been in a pandemic for 9 months. People are starting to decide and make changes based off of that. And it's pretty interesting. I mean, this has been something that's been brewing for a while, with things like, what we've been doing with you can go back to Tech Cocktail and places like that. But, Steve Case and his Rise and Rest efforts and Startup America. I mean, you can start up anywhere. And now the connectivity is caught up with the fact that you can work from anywhere and we can do it like this, and it's okay. And I think, and now that we've been in a pandemic for this long, I think companies are starting to realize that this is actually more efficient in some ways. And obviously, you're never gonna be able to replace the real in-person, face-to-face communications, because there's cues there that you miss. But it's really interesting. This what I'm calling the Great Migration, and companies are moving, but also people and VCs as well. And so you're seeing people say, okay, Austin's the new whatever place to go, or Miami's another one, and both of those have obviously tax benefits for moving to those. So it'll be interesting. Those are early buzz, where people are going, Texas and Florida. I think we'll see what else happens. I think people have been doing this for a while, and it's just now starting to bubble over, if you will.
Well, yeah, sure. Two things, right? So one is, the pandemic has demonstrated that we can all work pretty well. We'll see how it all, shakes out, but we can all work efficiently remotely, right? And then two is, it's going to be interesting to see what these states do to incentivize people to go there. Like you said, Texas and Florida. And trust me, I've thought about for years, getting a nice little condo down in Florida. And and I've done the math, right? I've done the study on this. If you make a nice income, let's say 100,000 or more, and the the state income tax incentive to having no state income tax down in Florida, basically you could pay for your mortgage and your taxes just based alone off the savings that you receive from having no state income tax. So you could have a free house in Florida, is what I'm trying to say.
Wow. And I don't know if our listeners know, but you have you've got a lot of experience with tax law. You started a company that was helping people with their property taxes and exited that company successfully. So, obviously you probably people should listen to what you're talking about, I think, is what I'm trying to say.
I'm the foremost expert. No, I'm not, but I do know a thing or two about it. And, to that point as well, like I know there's been a mass exodus of people within my own network from Chicago, for example, that, states like Indiana, Michigan, they're really incentivizing people and businesses to move over. I know that I think it was Caterpillar recently left Illinois for another state.
Yeah, but obviously Virginia has been lured Amazon over there for their big second, headquarters or whatever, and that was a big move, and that's not Silicon Valley, right? So you're seeing this migration, you're seeing competitive, bids being put out there for companies. But I think now it's just the people, right? Now it's gotten back to the people who can actually do it because they're not strapped to an office. And you're seeing even more of that with I think Google just put out even today, some new guidelines they're thinking about pushing out, which is basically allowing people this hybrid model where you can go to the office 3 days a week and 2 days a week you can kind of work from home. And so if that's the new standard, that could really change the way that people are going to take that and copy it, right? Other businesses are going to copy what Google's doing. And then you're going to see probably some of these bigger other tech companies do the same thing. So it's a really interesting time we live in as far as, is the office dead? No, probably not, but maybe it's going to change quite a bit. And obviously where that office is huge. I mean, Goldman Sachs is another one. I don't know if I mentioned that earlier, but they're moving down to Miami, which is, that's big. New York has always been the financial capital of the world and in the United States anyway. And here they are moving down to Florida. So, which is interesting. I love Florida, but Miami as well. But it's interesting. I'm curious how their risk tolerance is with the whole hurricane situation and whatnot. But I guess anywhere can be struck by a natural disaster these days. So I guess it doesn't matter.
Right.
So,
well, good stuff, buddy. Hey, look, I know we're limited on time, right? So we got to keep our our normal flow. Yeah, we can talk about that all day. But I know that one of the things obviously you like to do is celebrate people in your network, and I know there's a lot of good stuff going on. So, what are people been doing recently?
There's a lot of good stuff going on, but unfortunately, this last month has been such a blur. We had our big summit and everything. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but it was crunch time, so I didn't get as much. I wasn't out there reading as much as I should have and gathering, but I do have a couple high notes and one sad note. So, which do you want first?
Let's start out with the sad note, and then we'll end on a high note. How about that?
Okay, I like that. So yeah, so obviously, for those of you following along the news, you saw probably recently that Toney Hsieh, the CEO of Zappos, author of Delivering Happiness and instigator behind the Downtown Project, passed away right after Thanksgiving. And he was a friend of ours, a mentor, an investor in our previous company, Tech.co. We lived downtown, or neighbors with him for eight years downtown, and got a chance to experience what was going on there during the height of the Downtown Project, which is his $350 million to $500 million project, which was to reinvigorate downtown Las Vegas and make it a workable work, life, play kind of place. So obviously very sad to hear this news. We're still mourning. Still can't believe it. I'm shocked. I mean, the fact that we're even talking about it right now is tough, but I did get a chance to ink a article on our old publication, Tech.co, which he was an investor in. Our friends over at MVF Global were, kind enough to let Jen Consalvo and I, basically go and write this article and kind of celebrate his life. And now there's, obviously a place to kind of share some of the things we learned from him. Culture was a big thing with Zappos, and he was a visionary in that space, in that early .com kind of time frame where, people were still learning to buy things online. And he ended up selling that company for over $1 billion to Amazon, operating it under Amazon for over 10 years now, and recently, retired and then ultimately passed away. So we're very sad to, share this news, but we're celebrating everything good that he was able to do. And it's a tremendous amount of things. He touched so many people's lives with his work, with his inspiration through how he approached things. And, he and I both love llamas, and he actually got my witty jokes, so I really appreciated that. And it's sad. It's a big loss for the world. So rest in peace, Tony Hsieh. We miss you for sure.
Well, Frank, I know that I've had the pleasure of meeting Toney on a few occasions, right, with you.
Yeah.
And I know that he had such a quirky personality about him, which I think drew you two to each other. But why don't we remember him? I think he'd probably get a kick out of this. But what's, if you can remember like one thing that's like your happiest memory or most interesting memory of Toney, or maybe when you guys met? I don't know. I'm throwing this at you. I know.
Yeah. There's so many. I mean, it's so hard because there's so many over the course of the last decade or so. But I guess I can say is that there's a few people in my life that have been that impactful as far as career and future. And when I met him, I was still working in product development, leading up teams and things, and so was Jen. But also on the side, building this kind of side hustle tech cocktail into something, and doing my somewhat frank, blog. I used to be a blog. This is now on a podcast. And I met him through that. And, I think it's one of those things that there's just so many memories, but he has touched so much of my life due to his, basically inspiration, but also, belief in both myself and my co-founder, Jen Consavo. And so I think that's the biggest thing is he believed that we could do things, and obviously that helped. I mean, we believed it too, but I think that reassured us that he had our back, kind of thing. And I think that sometimes that's all you need is that little nudge to kind of push yourselves a little bit and get people out of their comfort zones. But I think that's one of the things that I loved about Toney is he was okay with getting people out, making them feel a little uncomfortable with maybe the things that they're thinking about or whatever. And he allowed people that space to do it. And with the downtown project, for example, his thing with that was more or less, creating this great vision and allowing people the space to come in and be able to be a part of it. With some of it was with startups, some of it was we did tech events there in downtown Las Vegas for 2.5 years, working in partnership with Downtown Project, bringing amazing people through, like Nolan Bushnell from started Atari and Chuck E. Cheese to Kara Swisher, the media, basically she's got her own media industry, or she started companies, she writes it, people know her for her work as a journalist. To all sorts. I mean, like the list goes on. And so I think those experiences. I mean, we met Elon Musk with him downtown. Like, there's so many different great memories. But I think it's just too many. But I do love, like, I love llamas, and I love that before I met Toney, and we had this kind of and even before it became a trite thing. Like, I don't know if you see llamas everywhere now. And it's because I basically visited a farm years ago and saw that they're really cool animals, and thought, well, if this will start a tech thing doesn't work out, maybe I'll start a farm. And that was something that Toney loved as well. He loved their quirkiness and their kind of, I guess they're always looking like they're a little like perturbed. And I know that for a fact because sometimes they do spit, and I have been spit into my mouth, which is totally disgusting and a whole other story. But more or less, we both kind of jived over that, and loved, and then the fact that he actually had a llama that I could go then visit across the street at his, in downtown Vegas when I was there, and he was there, and those are obviously fun memories. But we literally, he would do like crazy things, like have a llama parade from like the downtown to the ballpark, the minor league ballpark downtown. They used to play down there, and we'd go, with him and a bunch of folks would go down there and tailgate and have a good time. So he always had an idea of like how to create joy and bring interesting experiences by adding a little bit of quirk and allowing people to kind of push their boundaries. So I think that's what I loved about Toney so much. He always cared about how people's experiences were, and I think he ultimately would have loved to be he loved being just the host, like figuring it out, like, oh, how's your experience going, all that. And it started with, obviously that carried out into Zappos as well with the customer experience that they were able to deliver. So, I mean, there's so much to unload there from my perspective. But hopefully that gives a good kind of overview for folks that didn't get a chance to meet him or didn't know what he was about. And obviously we'll miss him tremendously.
Definitely.
All right.
So, well, so
with that, we've got a couple of folks we want to celebrate. Lou Mitzer. Mitzer is an entrepreneur out in DC area. He and his co-founders started a company, spun it out called HomeSnap, and they basically met. He just got his company acquired. I met him through the DC tech community. His company was basically when he first started, it was literally snap a picture on your phone, like an Instagram kind of thing, and you basically could take a picture of any home and realize what the value of the home was, and look up information about the home. And anyway, he sold to CoStar a couple weeks ago for $250 million cash, wow. Which is pretty phenomenal journey over the last 10 years, and we're obviously super excited for him. He got a chance to be a part of some of our early events in like some of the startup events we used to host at South by Southwest, and we still hopefully someday we'll host them again. But one of the early ones in 2010, 2012, something like that. I think it was 2012 actually. He met one of our judges for our startup competition. There was Steve Case, and so Steve Case went around and kind of looked at some of the companies and came through and met Lou and ended up being his first investor in this company. And sure enough, they continued to follow along, and obviously, that helped them quite a bit as they raised money and grew the company and whatnot. So I love that we're part of that journey. I love that we're super successful with it. And, now I'm hopeful that we can turn that into something good and continue to, look at other companies and, now maybe, help foster some mentoring or things like that, maybe some capital. I don't know. We'll see. But happy for him and what he's been able to do with that.
Definitely. Yeah, I know that, CoStar is a huge just data company, right? So yeah. I'm sure that was a significant part of the deal, I would imagine.
Yeah. And then the other was Danica Comball, who's out in Atlanta. She's had this agency for a while called Everywhere Agency. It's basically a marketing firm for influencer marketing. So people, influencer marketing has become a thing. That she was doing this a while back when it wasn't, and she just had it acquired. So congrats to her as well. Hopefully, it was a success for everyone, and wanted to definitely send my congrats and celebrate that win as well, because I know what it's like. She's been doing this for a while, so it probably feels really good at this point.
Yeah, congratulations. That's pretty amazing. So, hey, shifting gears again, I know that we just wrapped up in mid-November our annual Startup of the Year Summit, and we had a lot of highlights.
Weren't we? Yeah, we had a lot going on. Yeah,
non-stop.
Nonstop. So we had our big summit, the Startup of the Year Summit, which concludes our big community of startup community and program. And yeah, we had everything. We had 100 startups pitching. We had conversations with Tim Draper and Carolyn Goldin and Mike Evans and Toney and many more. We had AMAs with Ask Me Anythings with VCs and thought leaders, folks from NASA and Air Force, and it's just a really great event. We even have now we've been doing this so long. We've got these great alumni. You were a part of that, John. You got a chance you're alumni, right? You're part of the Startup of the Year community and alumni as well, and obviously part of our established team, but you got a chance to also talk to some other amazing companies that are doing great things. And this is great energy,
Yeah, sure. The one thing that I again, as you mentioned, I was involved with the alumni panels, and I noticed a trend that we tend to, with the established and Startup of the Year, a lot of the companies that have come through are fighting the good fight, right? They're fighting for those that are underrepresented. They're fighting for just to make the world a better place. So it's not, there are some companies involved, and there's a lot of value, obviously, of having a new fun widget or a financial tool of some sort. But really, some of the ones that stick out, and I think people remember, are those ones that are helping people in the world. And it was just, there was some really good conversations. A lot resonated with myself, and we received some really nice feedback from those things as well.
Yeah, no, it was great. And so videos for that are out on the internet, some of them, right? So some of the sessions we still are rolling out. We'll be trickling those out. Some of the fireside chats, we'll also be repositioning as podcasts. If you're part of this Startup of the Year podcast, you can go listen to some of those as they'll be coming out. But yeah, we've got our own YouTube channel, the established YouTube channel, and you can go watch some of those videos. There's a whole playlist for that over there. And aside from that, we also did 500 curated office hour meetings. So we were trying to connect these 100 companies with a bunch of different people, mentors, thought leaders. It was pretty phenomenal for that amount of time, 3-day event. We had that much connectivity happening. And the other thing that I'm really proud of, and you kind of touched on here, was the top 100 semifinalists for our Startup of the Year program this year, which was vetted down from 1,000 companies. We got a large community of companies, but those are the companies that participated. Over half the companies, had a female founder on their team. So it was founded by a female, or 75% of the teams had a founder of color, and nearly 20% were veteran-led startups. So that's pretty diverse set of companies from all over the country. I don't remember the exact, I think it was 25 states were represented. And I know that number has fluctuated over the years, where we've had 30 or 35, but that's in the top 100. Over the course of the 1,000, we probably had all the states represented, but not all of them made it to the top 100. So pretty awesome. I'm excited and proud of our team for the work we do there, and I'm excited to continue to build that community. So if you want to be a part of that community in 2021, or you can start now actually, you can go to establish.us/programs. Again, it's establish.us/programs. There's a little get notified area. You put your email in there and see what you're interested in, and we'll get back to you with some of these updates as we, push ahead here with our 2020 plans. It should be a lot of fun, and obviously, hopefully, if everything goes well, a little different than this year as far as just having to be virtual. But if it is virtual, we had a great time doing that as well. So a lot of good stuff there. And obviously, the big denouement of the whole thing was, naming our Startup of the Year, which was Solo Funds out of LA. They're 2020 Startup of the Year, along with Genie. That's right, Genie, like in the bottle, right? Genie is our .us Veteran Startup of the Year winner as well, which is a new event, a new thing that we did this year, new category in partnership with .us, the domain. And we also had some great finalists. Gosh, they all could have won. They were all amazing. It was super close this year. Solo Funds won. Genie, obviously, I mentioned a minute ago, but we also had Finmark, which is a really interesting company out of Raleigh-Durham, Glass, which is helping with procurement, and Oi Health, which is helping with folks that need healthcare. And then we had everyone voting online too. So there's one more opportunity for startups to win. And so Griffin out of Tampa Bay area, Tampa Bay, Florida, was the People's Choice Award this year, which is basically done by just people voting in and testing the different apps and seeing which they like the best. And so I've actually been a user of Griffin now for a couple of weeks. Johnny, did you try that as well?
I did. I have $35 invested.
I gotta look. There's a real-time updates right now. So the idea, let's explain it real quick. So Griffin, it's this app. You can go download it. It's free. It allows you to go and basically plug in some of your banking information. Everywhere that you spend money, it'll deduct like $1 from an extra $1 to invest into the company that you just bought something from. So I'm up to $56.49 in investment. I've got $6.93 in Amazon. Because I spend a lot on Amazon, I guess. Apple, I've got $5.09 of Apple shares. I've got some in Chewy, I guess I buy, because I've got some pets, so I buy pet gear from them. Netflix, Chipotle, Tesla, Target. Think about it. Anywhere you spend money, you can then buy little shares of, which is pretty cool, and it's a pretty interesting little app. So we've been testing it out. I'm hoping that it continues to expand. I think it's got a lot of legs, so I'm excited for what they're doing.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I know that, and another thing too is that we have Established Ventures, which is our investment arm, and so we are, finalizing our investment in Solo Funds. We've already invested in Genie, and we've been vetting some of these other top companies as well. Because I know that I like them all. But
I'm excited. I'm really excited about the companies that are coming through, and then now we're starting to see some of the companies from last year are now starting to raise because they weren't quite ready last year, and so we've got a plethora of companies, Johnny. We're going to be busy, man. We need to raise some more funds.
Our pipeline's pretty, look, we don't always like to toot our own horn, but toot. Our deal flow is pretty phenomenal, and we have a lot of good companies coming through. Yes,
and that kind of leads into what we talked about a little bit this week already at the top of the cast here. I guess is that slang for I don't know. What do people call the top of the podcast? Is the pod? Anyway. Right, top of the episode. So anyway, we talked about this a little bit, that migration that's happening, the great exodus, I guess you could say, from Silicon Valley, and there's something that kind of popped on our radar recently called the Unvalley Conference, Unvalley 2020, which is being produced by Powder Keg, which is a company out of Indianapolis, and we've known the founder, Matt Hunkler, for a while, and he reached out to get us involved. And so it's this 2-day virtual conference that's going to connect you with the biggest opportunities in tech between the coasts. So think of it like, an opportunity if you're looking for a job or your employer. Those are 2 great matches for being a part of this event. It's coming up on December 17th and 18th online. So some great speakers. We've got Steve Case from Revolution Rise the Rest. We've got Arlen Hamilton from Backstage Capital, Rand Fishkin, who's pretty noteworthy thought leader out there, sort of Moz. Mary Grove from Bread and Butter Ventures, used to be at Revolution Rise the Rest, and before that Google for Startups. And the list goes on and on. Both myself and you, Johnny, as well as Jen Consalvo and Rich Malloy and Jackie Dietrich and Shaw Lathram will all be speaking at the event as well, as we'll be basically interviewing a lot of different folks, and as well as engaging with the different components of the conference. And obviously our established team has been pulled in to help with the production and keep the wheels turning as a sponsor of the event as well. So lots going on in a very short amount of time. I feel like deja vu all over again here. A little Yogi Berra quote for you, because here we are, like we just did a huge event, and I'm seeing some some of these similar parallels as we were pulling this all together in the next couple days. Right, and another big goal of theirs is to help people find jobs and careers, and that'll be one of the themes is doing so in this remote environment. So everybody that's listening or watching, please go ahead and register and get your ticket for Unvalley. You can go to est.us est.us/Unvalley20. Yep. And you can get est.us/Unvalley20, and that should take you right to the registration. And get your tickets now, because it's going to be great. It's only, it's coming right up. December 17th and 18th. So Thursday and Friday, 17th and 18th. Sure. And that's about it. After that, I think we're all kind of, that was a good year, right? We're going to all kind of take a break, which is what we much need. For sure. What are you going to do over break? Are you going to hit the slopes? Are you going skiing? What are you up to? Yeah, I don't know yet. Cruise? Probably staying in our environment, more or less, as we continue to watch things happen outside. But we're supposed to get a little snow, and I think we're going to try to do some, some things out in nature. And obviously the whole Christmas holiday will be exciting, and I'm just looking forward to that, as well as New Year's. So there are some slopes I'd like to go check out. I just got to see if they haven't gotten a lot of snow yet this year, actually. Yeah, but I'm in Indianapolis. It's pretty mild down here. But with that being said, I guess that's a nice segue to our next section of staying inside and reading and watching things. So what have you been reading or watching? Yeah, and I know we've been kind of long-winded on the front end of this, but I've been reading a lot. I've actually been reading a lot more than I've been, I guess, clipping things to celebrate. As far as people on the network, so I apologize if I missed anybody's big celebrations. Let me know what they are, and we'll put them in the next one. But been reading a lot. There's some couple of interesting pieces. So I don't know if you're a fan of board games, but there's this really interesting story. I'm always interested in origin stories, especially from a startup perspective. So there's an article out there in the Smithsonian magazine that I found. It's all about the origin story of Monopoly, which is really interesting. Monopoly was designed to teach. The title is Monopoly was designed to teach 99% the 99% about income inequality. So it was basically this whole story of like why it came about. I don't want to spoil it for you, so go check that out if you get a chance. Kind of interesting stuff out there. One of the things I was excited about, because we are going to be a little bit indoors and probably going into 2021, is this huge move by Warner Brothers, basically to push all of their movies that would have been in theaters in 2021 directly to your home or tablet or phone via HBO Max. Mm-hmm. So the first one coming, they had some announcements over it recently before this big announcement, but Wonder Woman, which is Wonder Woman 1983, it was going to be released on Christmas Day. Because usually my old tradition with the family was always on Christmas Eve or Christmas Day, we'd always go see a movie. That was what we would do, because everything's kind of closed and you've kind of already you've gone through the whole thing, and now you're like, what can we do together? And so we'd actually go out to the theater and watch a movie. And so I think a lot of America does that, and so that's why there's such a Christmas kind of blockbuster kind of theme. And so Wonder Woman's going to be direct in your home, and then on top of that, everything going into 2021 will be in your home as well. Pretty phenomenal. Yeah, it's really cool. I like those
period pieces, let's call them, from like you'd mentioned this Wonder Woman 1984 is coming up, and then I was a big fan of Captain America that are set a few years ago, and they're not necessarily in the future and all that sort of thing. So I'm excited about it as well. And the first Wonder Woman was really good.
So some of the other movies that are coming out from Warner Brothers, just to get people a little bit more context, is Matrix 4 is coming out, wow. Which, if you like the Matrix series, that's coming out. Suicide Squad is coming out. The Dune. Basically, they're going to be out for 31 days, the same day that they hit the theater. So if you're, big push to obviously get people using HBO Max if you don't have it already, and then get out there and see all these movies. Another one is Godzilla versus Kong, Space Jam: The New Legacy, and the list goes on. So it's going to be really interesting. And also with that, Disney Plus has been making moves, and they made some announcements at their big meeting last week, which was more or less they're putting out new titles. They've got, I think it was 10 new Star Wars, either series or movies coming out directly to the Disney Plus. So that time we've always been wondering, when will this whole thing be direct to consumer? It's now. The time is right now, and everyone's making their moves. And obviously, what does that mean for the theater industry, which is already crippled at this point, basically with the pandemic basically shutting them down for months on end. I think it's going to definitely hurt. I think you're going to see a lot of those like smaller ones that are like more niche, like revive after things get back to a little bit more like normal, but bigger ones might take a hit.
How about that new Obi-Wan Kenobi series that's coming out?
Right, I know. And they've got, exactly.
Hayden Christensen's coming back as Darth Vader, so. Yeah,
I think they're doing an Up, the movie Up from Pixar. Pixar's got some new movies. They're doing a sequel or something to that. There's just so many. I mean, it's to the point where at this point, like, I don't know, like, I'm worried about society a little bit because there's so much content to consume, and we just need to get outside sometimes and move around. Like, we don't, I'm afraid that the couch potato is going to be the thing of the future, unfortunately. So that's the only thing that I'm thinking about is like, wow, that's amazing. I love it. But like, I'm on a screen on my phone, I'm on a screen on talking to you, and then now I'm going to go watch a bigger screen. So I go from small, medium to large all day long, 24/7 with not getting enough sleep. And it's just, from a health perspective, I'm concerned. So it's pretty awesome from an entertainment perspective, but like, I'm still worried about society.
Yeah, I'm actually worried about the kids, right? Like my nephews, I never had a cell phone until I was in my sophomore, junior year of college. Right? My nephews, they're 4 and 6, and they're in, Facebook messaging me with all these different filters and stuff, which I love and is really cool. But
yeah,
it's scary. Think about where they're going to be in 30, 40 years, right? It's gonna be wild.
Oh, I totally agree.
Hopefully in a good place.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. It's definitely a challenge with little ones to keep them off the screen. Screen time is a big thing, and we've got to try to figure out how other ways to do that and be more creative with our play and our thought, which just takes creativity to lay it out like a plan, right? You got to come up with a plan, especially with our little one. Like, you got to kind of lay out, what are you going to do? Because it's so quickly you take 1 second to take a phone call, and next thing the TV's on or the tablet's being watched, and it's really hard to break those cycles.
Absolutely.
So, all right. So what else, Johnny? What else do you want to talk about?
Well, we're getting to the end of our episode here, so we got to get moving. But 2 things that are near and dear to my heart are aliens and treasure hunting, right?
So, I know. Yeah. So let's talk about treasure first, right? We can always end. Or which do you want, treasure or aliens? Which is more uplifting?
Let's do treasure, and then we'll get to aliens.
Okay. So treasure, I don't know if you saw this. This guy found like all these gold coins, 500 gold coins, and he's literally going to jail because he doesn't want to give them up or their location up. There's an article out there that I shared. Pretty crazy. Treasure hunter, basically he's been in jail for 5 years, refusing to give up his gold. What do you think about
that? I you know what? Okay, so I've given this a lot of thought. I've spent a lot of time in the Keys over the years, and I like the idea of looking for treasure. And they call it, these gentlemen that go out and look for it. It's kind of like wreckage or scavenge. They go out and look for this stuff.
And I know you do, because you bought a treasure hunting device this summer, right? So you have you have help.
I dabble. I have a nice, it's a little hobby, right? Yeah. So I have a few metal detectors and stuff like that. But anyway,
metal detector. That's what I was getting. You've got a metal detector, and you go out and look for things as well. So this is treasure hunter I'm talking to.
It's just for fun. I never find anything, but it's fun because you can find something. So anyways, the idea is that these people, and this is nothing new, but this guy's story is pretty interesting. is that if you go out there and you could spend hundreds of thousands of dollars searching for this stuff, and if once you find it, you have to file for the appropriate permit to be able to, I guess, take the fruits of your labor. And then immediately the Spanish, because most of this is Spanish from when they were over here,
right? Maybe
not with the best of intentions of what they were doing over here in early America, right? And moving gold around.
Yep.
Yeah, right.
Yep.
So once these scavenger people to find this, or treasure hunters find this treasure, they have to file the appropriate permits, and then the Spanish government immediately files stating that it's their property.
Wow! Still,
you spent all this time and effort. And
you're saying in 2020 they're still doing this?
Oh, every time.
Oh my God!
Lawyers in Florida
because it was theirs in their ship. You're saying back in the day
because it was theirs and it still is theirs from the 1700s. But they've spent very little time or effort actually looking for it. And then you get these people out there that actually do find it, and then they immediately have to fight the Spanish government, which have a lot of resources, let's be honest, to get their treasure. So I put a lot of thought into this, and if I ever do find anything, I better watch what I say here.
Yeah, it is recorded.
I may not. Yeah, I have some thoughts on the way that I would.
You've been thinking about the strategy for how to handle it?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So, okay. And the name of the gentleman is Tommy Thompson. I meant to mention that earlier. He's the person that found this treasure. And there's an article I shared, we'll put it in the notes, about his 5 years in jail. I mean, that's a long time for a bunch of coins. So hopefully he finds it's worth it.
Yeah, 300 gold coins. I've heard, his story is pretty rough, but I've actually heard worse. And I don't think we need to get into it. But it's a big deal right now, is fighting for this treasure that's been sitting at the bottom of the ocean since the 1700s. So it's wild.
Oh, that's crazy. All right, let's switch gears and talk about aliens, your other favorite topic, and one that is fascinating, especially this year. There's been so much news, and we've talked about it a little bit, right, with some of these things coming out, that, some of the UFO videos and things that have been put out by the Pentagon, and their old naval videos and things of that nature. And then most recently, this just last week, it was written up in Vice.com and has been, I think, covered a number of different places. And Israel's former space secretary chief says that aliens have prevented nuclear war.
Mm-hmm.
Wow, that is a pretty high-ranking official from the Israeli government that is, formerly of the government, saying that. And I've met a lot of Israelis, it's a startup nation. I used to meet a lot of them, a lot more. Just a fun fact for all of you didn't know, back in the day, Somewhat Frank, when it was a blog, was one of the top read in places that startups from Israel should go get found. And that was written up in a bunch of publications out in Israel for being a place that startups should connect with me and get their story told through my blogging efforts around technology and startups. So I've met a lot of Israeli startup founders and thought, wow, these guys are like straight shooters as far as like they're very direct. If you've ever had a chance to meet anybody from Israel, so from this perspective, I'm like, wow, granted, people can lie, right? But at the same time, a high-ranking official like this, it seems pretty wild. What's his motive at this point?
He's got a lot of. The most interesting thing about this to me, and I've heard this in a number of different places, is that this gentleman's credentials and awards that he's received throughout his career. I mean, he's putting it all on the line. To your point, what does he have to?
Yeah, exactly. What's he got to lose? I mean, everything. So why go out there with this unless it's true? So it's pretty crazy, and it got buried in the news cycles, unfortunately.
It's a pretty interesting story, and getting buried in the news cycles maybe by design in some cases. That's my conspiracy theorist hat that I'm wearing.
Of course, there's a lot of conspiracy theories like right now, especially. So yeah, definitely interesting to see this coming out. But it is on Vice.com, which is out there, and I think it got covered a couple different places. And just something that raises eyebrows for sure, and something to check out and be aware of as we continue to move forward. And that'd be pretty much. Unbelievable. That would top off 2020 if all of a sudden there were more of these reports about how aliens have been preventing nuclear war on Earth, which is
it seems like the plot to one of those Disney movies you were talking about earlier, or Warner Brothers. So I want to go out on I have one question for you before we sign off here. Who are you taking in the Purdue IU old bucket?
Well,
old,
that's
old Oaken bucket game this weekend.
The old Oaken bucket. So those that don't know, Johnny Good Times and I, we went to college together at Purdue at the same time that Drew Brees and a number of other folks like that went. And so big Purdue fans. I also went to Northwestern, so I do pull for them, and they're going to play in the Big Ten game. But Purdue this year, I stopped watching them because they had some poor calls against them, and I got upset with the referees. But I did. There were some rough ones. They should have won a couple games, and they got taken away from them because I don't know why. But either way, this Purdue IU game has always been a big thing, right? Like they play for this literally an Oaken bucket. It was the old Oaken bucket. We get fired up about the game. It was always the last game of the season. Before they even had the whole round the championship games for the Big Ten. And so this year though, because of COVID, the game was supposed to be played like a month ago. And then they pushed it up to like a couple weeks ago, and then they canceled it because of COVID. And then they brought it back yesterday or 2 days ago for like a day, and then they just canceled it today. So I don't think they should play this game. It's just stop messing around with our emotions, at this point. So I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, at some point, you're right. I mean, this may not be the best year for it. And honestly, I mean, we're at this point, I think we're fighting. I use a really good team this year. So maybe this is the year we maybe let this one go.
Yeah, maybe, but then on the flip side of that is actually IU, right? They're 6-1, right, or something like that, and so they literally are one of the top teams. I mean, Purdue, I guess, could try to knock them off. I don't know. I just don't. I don't know what really is gained. I think they already picked that Ohio State's going to play Northwestern in the championship, right? So
it's just
it doesn't really
it's
mean
just
anything.
Unfortunate.
I said Oaken bucket. They want to win the bucket, and it would be the first time in a while I think that they didn't play this game. Because they are close by each other, and it's one of those matchups that you always see.
Right, and I just feel bad for the athletes and the students, because
I
couldn't even imagine if we were still in school and they canceled the whole season, and especially if you're a player as well. It's
got to be tough, yeah. So everyone out there, hang in there. It's been a rough year. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, as we mentioned at the beginning of this cast. Vaccines are coming. Hope is on its way, as we look ahead to 2021, and things are already changing. So let's just keep our fingers crossed, keep the faith, and keep moving forward one day at a time. We all can do our part to be as positive as we can and try to impact the world the best way we can. So thanks, Johnny Good Times, for joining me again on the Somewhat Frank podcast. It's been a lot of fun. And for all those listeners out there, please drop us a note. We'd love to hear from you, where you're from and what you're up to, and maybe some thoughts on the cast or what you'd like to see us do more of in the reviews. And we'll try to incorporate that into our next podcast, which will try to be a little bit more frequent in 2021. This could be our last cast of the year. So thank you all for listening, and have a great holiday and be well out there.
Well, that's a wrap. Thanks so much for listening. This is Somewhat Frank, signing off. Frank Gruber. Oh, and don't forget, subscribe online, iTunes, SoundCloud, Android, wherever you can find it. Somewhat Frank podcast. We'll be back soon with another episode. Thanks so much.